Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Getting back to work on the Cobra in this video. Last video on the Cobra, I kind of walked through some of the issues that were found in, the last time I took it out on the road, as well as some of the other items I had planned to do this winter. This video, I am going to start, messing around with some of those issues. Still have a little bit of good weather left before it turns for the winter, so I figure I want to try and address some of the ride quality issues first while I still can take it out for test drives and whatnot. So that being said, I am going to get the phone turned around and get to work on the car. All right, so as I'd mentioned in the last video on the Cobra, I was not really happy with the ride quality after doing the new suspension in it. It's not bad, but is definitely still on a little on the harsh side. And on undulating roads, it is very, very bouncy. It's like the shocks didn't have a chance to recover. So I, posted, in a couple of posts on some of the forums online, and some of the recommendations came back as lowering tire pressure, as well as adjusting the rear shocks down to full soft, because I have them one click up from full soft. Fronts are currently full soft. So first thing I'm going to do is the tire pressure. I've been setting this thing up since I got it at 23 psi at all four corners, kind of going off of the you know, based on weight and PSI type of thing. And it's, 2,300 pound car. So I went with 23 pounds of pressure. What I'm thinking I'm going to do based on some of the recommendations is go down to 21 front, 20 rear, and see how that impacts the ride quality. Some of the forum guys, they said they basically are running 19 front, 18 rear, and can go as low as that. So I'm going to start with 2120 because that's a pretty big swing for a car this light. See how it is, and go from there. So I'm going to let the air out, and then I also am going to remeasure the ride heights at all four spots, just because this has had some miles on it now. Everything should be settled at this point in time. Just want to see where it's setting, especially after I drop pressure out of the tires. All right, pressures are all adjusted, 21 front, 20 rear, and I crawled underneath, and actually all four corners are 4 and 5/8. Front's supposed to be 4.5, rear's supposed to be 4 3/4. That's the goal. So looks like there was a little shifting with the driving and settling and whatnot. So a few minor tweaks are going to be needed. So I'll probably do that, and then I can go out and take it for a quick test drive. Let everything settle again, see how it is with the new pressure settings, if it's made any adjustments. So I'm going to get to work on that, and I will follow up once I've adjusted it and gone for a ride and see how it is. All right, so I just got back from a long drive. I did go ahead and mess with the ride height. I just went up a slight amount in the rear, down a slight amount in the front. I'll have to check it later and see where it's at now. With the tire pressure change alone, I will say there was definitely a big improvement in the ride quality. It's a lot better. I even went down some of those undulating roads where it was bouncing a lot and really pogoing. Wasn't doing it as bad now. So I think that's going to be just a real easy fix as far as pressures go. I may go down 1 pound in each. Like 1 pound in the front, 1 pound in the rear, and that'll knock it down to 20 front, 19 rear, and that'll probably get me right where I want to be. Once I do that, and like maybe next year I can start chalking the tires and just track them and make sure that everything looks like it's pretty even wear and whatnot. But that being said, also driving it, that rattle still there, even though I pulled everything out of the trunk. So it's definitely something with the car. It's from pretty much 30 mile an hour on. It is the same no matter what gear you're in. So I have a feeling it's a body panel. When I did the rear suspension on this, I had to do some prying of panels and things like that to get bolts out. And I'm wondering if I popped something a little loose. So that's what I'm hearing, because it seems like it's like coming from the rear firewall area. So it's definitely not the shifter. I messed around with that while I was driving, trying to kind of put load on it in different directions to see if it would keep the bushing from rattling, if maybe that's what it was. And yeah, it didn't make any change. So pretty sure it is something with the body panels on the rear firewall. And again, I did pry away at some of that, trying to get the upper control arm bolts out when I was doing rear suspension work on this earlier in the year. So guessing that's what I need to do there. One thing I forgot to mention in prior video is the transmission whine. Today's a colder day and I could still hear it pretty much mostly in third. So again, tight transmission. I've really only put not even 100 miles on it yet though since I rebuilt it. So yeah, I'm going to let it break in a little bit more. I don't think it's anything I'm worried about. Again, I knew I shimmed it tight when I put it together. So that's where things are there. Kind of got to wait for a little bit because I'm going to be getting the floor done here in the next week or so. So I can't really put this thing up on jack stands. So rest of the items are going to have to wait till the guys come here, do the garage, and then I get this up in the air and start messing around with it. All right, so it has been about a week since the last clip you just saw, as I've been doing some work on the Gladiator that's sitting out there. Probably seen a few videos uploaded on that recently. So I went ahead, I actually lowered the pressures again. I went down to 20 in the front, 19 in the rear, just to see if that'll soften the ride a little bit. And then I also remeasured everything, the four corners. The good news is fronts both came in at 4.5. Right rear, 4 3/4, exactly where it's supposed to be. Left rear, still a little low. It is 4 5/8. So I'm going to crawl under, put a couple or a little more wedge into the spring in the left rear, and then that should get me good to go as far as ride heights. And then I'll go ahead and take this thing for another test drive, see how I like the ride quality with a little bit less pressure in the tires, and then double check the heights when all is said and done. So that's just a real quick update where things are at. As you can see, still waiting on the floor in the garage to get done. All right, back from a drive, and also checked all measurements. Both rears are at 4 3/4, left front 4.5, right front dropped is 4 3/8. So I need to knock the right front up just ever so slightly. I will say the ride quality has gotten a lot better. Like I said, I'm now at 20 front, 19 rear as far as tire pressure, and it's much more civil than it was. So it's amazing, with a light car, how much of a difference, 1 or 2 PSI can make. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and jack up the right front corner, put it a little bit in, put a little wedge in that spring, and hopefully that solves my issues. All right, just check pressures again, or heights again, and with the pressures of 20 front, 19 rear, I am now right on 4.5 inch ride height, both sides in the front, 4 3/4 both sides in the rear. So finally have the ride height set on the Cobra. All right, well, it has been probably 4 or 5 weeks since the last clip you just saw. If you follow my channel, you'll have seen like the last month or so, I've been doing videos on my Jeep Gladiator because I had a bunch of work I needed to do before the weather turned, which it has. There's currently about 3 inches of snow and a bunch of ice on my driveway and everything. So I had to take care of some work on that while I could. But now that that's done, is going to be getting back to work on the Cobra. I'd mentioned in previous videos that the garage floor was being done, and that was part of the reason as well that I couldn't do much on this car. Still has not been done yet, but the company is coming out next Monday. This is a Monday as well that I'm talking. So a week from today, they're coming out to do the floor, and once that is done, I can go ahead, get this thing back up on jack stands, and start working on projects accordingly. A lot been going on in my garage as far as prepping for that and cleaning stuff up here as well, which I will have a video on. I believe I've said that earlier as well. So anyway, as far as the Cobra goes, being that the garage floor is going to be done, I think the next project I am going to be working on will be something where this can still be on the ground. And it's a part that I talked about previously, and I did receive this a few weeks ago in the mail. This is what I'm going to be using as my trunk prop. So I previously mentioned I had some ideas of how I wanted to install this. I got this from Finish Line. I know a lot of people knock them. I've never really had a problem with orders arriving from them. They're normally pretty reasonable time-wise. I had this within, I think, 4 days of my order. I think the only thing I've ever had a delay on with them was my turkey pan, and that's because the one guy that produces them does them by hand as ordered, and it just sometimes takes a while. At least that's the information I received. But anyway, got that from Finish Line, and that is the trunk stay that I'm going to be using for my trunk lid. So that will be the next project on the Cobra, most likely. Then I will be able to get this thing back up in the air and start messing around with the transmission leaks and all the other issues, the rattles and this and that I have brought up in previous videos. just to make it that much better of a vehicle to drive. So that being said, if you like what you're seeing, you want to follow along, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. I do review them. I will reply. I do have a second YouTube channel devoted to firearms. If that's something you're interested in, please check it out. There's a link in the description of this video. I also have a Rumble channel where I'm posting the same firearm content. If you're on Rumble, I'd appreciate it if you'd follow the link and check out my page and give it a like as well. I have some merch I'm selling. You'll probably see it below this video as well as in the description. Currently working on using a new vendor versus spring, so you'll probably see some updates and things like that. So if any of that interests you, please check it out. Again, links in the description of this video. That being said, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.